hope you have a wonderful adventure in grad school, and hopefully we'll have you back at Malvern Books pretty soon. Thank you. Our next reader is someone very, very special to Malvern Books, and we're going to be losing her in 1 week. She's going to be going to Texas State, and she's going to be going in as a junior. So we're really excited for her new adventure as well. But she's very important because she's brought so many people into the store, so many amazing writers, so many opportunities for us through an event she used to co-host called Mind Maze. But now we're having her here as our reader. We just snatched her right up. But we're presenting tonight A.R. Rogers. She is a poet and a fiction writer, currently living in Austin, Texas, but not for long. She completed her creative writing program at ACC and will be a junior at Texas State University in the fall. We have her chapbook here. It's titled Tiny Nothing, and it was published through Raw Paw Press in 2014. So you're going to fall in love with her. We've got plenty of copies, so just to come on up. Currently they're on the cool picks table in the back over here. This past semester she was the lead editor for ACC's Rio Review, interned with the Writers League of Texas, and co-hosted the Mind Maze reading series here at Malvern Books. Her work can be found in Red River Review, Contraposition, and Peach Fuzz. With all, come on up. Sorry. When you're ready. I'm really nervous.
Thank you, Anar. And thank you to Malvern for having me here again, probably the last time for a while. Thank you, Chandra and Anar, for wanting to focus on young women writers. And when they approached me, they know that I'm an undergraduate, a very non-traditional undergraduate, and I feel like undergraduates don't get the attention that they deserve because I've worked with so many talented undergraduates at ACC. So I'm just going to get into it. I broke this reading up into 3 parts. First part is about me. Second part is poems for lovers. Third part are poems for my mother. So sorry about that. This first one, in my late teens and early 20s, I was bulimic. And then when I kind of worked through that somewhat, I gained an enormous amount of weight. Then I moved to Austin and lost 40 pounds in like 3 months. And over the past year, I've put some of that back on. So all that is to say, I've been kind of at war with my body for over a decade. And this poem was a pep talk to me. And if that means anything to you, if any of that resonates with you, then this poem is a pep talk for you also. Today, body. You think you know the body you live in until the weight you worked so hard to lose comes back heavier on your hips. Think you know it till your hair at 28 begins to gray heavily and thin and recede at the temple. Think you've grieved this body much as a body can. You've been sad enough over the perfect tits you never had. Look down again to find 2 wet sacks of flour and endowed with enough hate for them both. You think you know this body until it reveals itself, its complete and ugly dissension. Think you know this body. You wake and come to consciousness through its smallness again and again. And I wrote this poem on a really bad day. Considerations. Spend my rent money on a neck tattoo, smoke cigarettes in my room, eat without feeling hunger, and binge watch internet TV with girl-on-girl porn open in another window, to bathe or not, brush my teeth or not, negotiate a hunger for human touch and Chinese food against my bank account and my own special kind of poverty. The last poem of this section was inspired by an event that happened at Round Top Poetry Festival. It was my first time to go there this past year, and if you have the opportunity to go, please go. You get to spend a weekend on sort of an expanse of land that's obscenely beautiful, and you get to interact with big name poets that you never would think would be within arm's reach, and then you're having breakfast with them. So Ellen Bass gave the most amazing reading I've ever heard in this incredible chapel the last morning of the festival. And I was watching this reading from a balcony in the chapel. And then so I had to like descend this crazy spiral staircase to get to the bottom. And as I approached the bottom, it's like full of bodies, lots of congestion, people are trying to exit. And I noticed that there's a woman blocking the stairwell, and I kind of scrutinized and I'm like, oh shit, that is Sharon Olds. I have to talk to Sharon Olds right now. So I tap her on the shoulder, and Sharon Olds is wonderful, but she is insane. I tap her on the shoulder, and she says, is there a little voice behind me? And she turns around, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get through, just want to get out. And the entire weekend, my critic had been just crazy in my head, telling me, who did I think I was? What was I doing there? I was never going to be as good as the poets I was interacting with. I'm sure you guys know how that goes. So I had that in my head, and Sharon Olds looks at me and steps aside with her body and motions to the space that she left in the absence of her body and said, this is a narrow aperture, but it is for you. When Sharon Olds says to me, this is a narrow aperture, but it is for you. Gap, elbowed out space, crack, pinhole of light, singular celestial body in 1,000-year night. Crevice along the interior of some distant sun, it will surely burn you to pass. This foramen is of bone and body, slide between threads, the thick muck of marrow, dim white cave of composition. Nothing more than a slit, paper cut, incision, delicate vitellin around the yellow mess of a yolk you must not break. Come in through the vent. We are all uncertain if your shoulders and hips will fit. Suck in, make yourself small before you make yourself big. Hum and throb of humans moving always closer or farther, respiration of being, an emaciated animal of a way out, a thing frothing at the mouth, waiting and wanting to bite down. This isn't much of a route, a road without path, but it is a way, and it is for you. So the next 3-4 poems are about people I have loved, or thought that I loved. I could only crack your knuckles. When your hands went stiff, when I thought you in need of repositioning. It's as close as I could get. How I could make our hands touch appropriate. Nothing says, I love you, like pulling a bone loose. Like letting the body almost break before it settles back into place. Murakami before bed. I dream you are pale and Japanese, with your white back to me. Grind my teeth in sleep, wake ungrateful and intolerant, erratic as a chimpanzee. Idaho. I like a woman who prefers whole milk to almond, says, don't give me any of that health food shit, whose hair is wild with knots and the odor of campfire, who's gone unkempt, overgrown. A feral cat that won't eat out of your hand, just leave what you have to offer outside on the stoop. I like a woman with eyes the color of glaciers. Twin runaways break from a larger piece of ice. I like a woman who is like air, whose nature is to circulate. And this one I finished maybe 2 weeks ago, and I'm happy to have you here to share it with, because I don't think anyone has seen it yet. Watching while they eat. I let men in my life when I was 25. On my birthday, blitzed, spread my legs wide. Underneath him, I could see then what the fuss was about. Small brutality of their limbs, struggle to regulate force against violence, how mild the skin becomes. That close, you can perceive the lingering roundness of boyhood. All of these appeal to me, which is why I like to watch them eat. I like the satisfied little moans in the mouth, and om, meditation on sustenance, white flash of teeth, the aching for them to tear away pieces of me, wipe with the back of the hand, debris from the chin or the cheek. It's even better when I prepare the meal myself, handle the meat, remove skin, dice finely with the cool knowledge that they'll swallow, and use my body to wash it down. So these last three, or next to last three, are about my mother. And I will let you form your own opinions. Mother's Day. I can call her on the government-issued Obama phone, but I don't. I do not reach out over the airways of Texas, do not say hello or howdy or I love you or thank you. I want the silence of this Sunday to make her wring her hands. Sit sedentary all day like I know she does. Flip open every half hour or so the face of an antiquated phone. Find only nothing from her only child and no one wanting to hire her. Instead of calling, I study anthropology. By now, I know what makes a human a human. But it's hard to focus. I just hear her on repeat, an old memory saying, I didn't come from no monkey. When she pawns, her hands are naked and white again. I hear the clinks of metal and stone falling into a Ziploc bag, the plastic click of the closure. I think this must be a reasonable means to supplement an income, the way of things. Bi-weekly, our lives bloom and fall. We are so beg, borrow, or steal, and she is so, we'll go out to dinner next Friday when she's got her rings back and her nails done. This last poem about my mother, I've been trying to write this poem for over 10 years. My father is a horrible human being, and my mother definitely made sure that I knew that growing up. I've never seen my parents be kind to one another. I've never experienced them married. I've never heard one say a kind thing about the other. And so this is one of the stories that my mother told me many times. And I could see it almost as if I was more there than I actually was. I think we all have memories like that that we've sort of built around stories. It felt really good to get this poem out of me. Baby learns the hard way for the first time. There is a flight of stairs, and we are going down together. I am in the milky bath of her womb. The light disappears and comes back like a dark cloth over my eyes, lowered and then raised. He is satisfied at the top of the flight. Look how far we can swim from the lucid tide of gravity. We are good at falling. She pulls us up with her weight on our wrists, rubs the sweet dome of her belly, says to me, don't let anyone ever treat you like this, before grabbing the railing and climbing back up. You guys look so serious. I'm sorry to read you all these like intense poems, but I'm gonna try to lighten it up with these last two. Well, maybe not. For Hudson, who is usually an asshole. Having built the stamina for things that are difficult to love, I went without proof for several turns of the moon. Pushed past your urgent appetite to be right, the flat way you dismiss what troubles me, took what you knew to give, stray bites of your lunch, leftover Lone Stars, the mocking of someone lesser than. Until this winter passed at your house on Duval, when I drank and smoked myself down into an unrequited chasm. When he shut me out, shut his bedroom door, left me on the couch, you covered my body curled small as it can when I wasn't quite asleep, tucked under the excess, kissed my head, mourned my loss. And so that one and this last one are both in Tiny Nothing, and there are a couple copies left on that table, and then that's all the copies there are, unless Raha does a reprint, so that's pretty exciting. So as mentioned, I am moving out of Austin. Austin was an incredibly transformative 4 years. I'm really excited to get a move on with my life. I am hungrier for my life than I have ever have been. The last 2 years of that 4-year period, I lived in this wonderful and dilapidated little duplex. And as soon as I moved in, I bought this very generic hanging plant, just an ivy. And I loved it so much that I wrote this poem about it. And a week before I moved out, I had to unexpectedly go to Dallas to, you guessed it, deal with my mother. And when I got back, the plant looked so bad and unhealthy, and I thought maybe it just, wasn't getting adequate water. But it turns out it had contracted some sort of bacteria, and each leaf like rotted and fell off. And I was like more devastated than someone should be about the loss of a plant because it represented so much for me. So I want to share this poem with you because I think it will feel very full circle. You are a houseplant. You are an artist, flamboyant. Hold yourself like a cursive letter, like you are arching your back. You know what you look like. Every day you grow towards the sun. Don't stop to consider what it might be like to lean just a little, only for today, into the dark. You live a life of response to light and jars full of water, envious of the ability to wander from the center of the solar system. But this kind of cognition just leaves you heartbroken to know much of anything, and you grieve like a bad wife the aptitude to stay so devoted. Thank you so much for your time.